How are
Good. How are you?
you? Some of my co-hosts are dressed up like Alice Cooper and one of the characters from the
Oh
movie.
yeah, that's
And
great.
then Randy
Yeah,
is in her vampire garb.
nice,
Thank you so much
nice.
for taking the time to talk with us. We're so excited.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
We're big
oh, thank
fans
you.
of this film. We're
Oh,
big
great.
cult, yeah, we're big cult musical aficionados, and Suck is one of those films that I always tell people you've got to watch. You've got to watch because it's just one of those undiscovered cult musical gems. Before we
Yeah,
ask Rob some,
I saw something on like I was your thing came up on I guess it was Reels or something, and it was like it's fun. It's a fun website. Like it was like I think it was Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and then what else was it? It was like oh, maybe you know, but but whatever. It was. Oh, these are great. These are great, great cult
we
music. Obviously, I
are
like cult musicals, so
yeah, so
yeah.
they're best. We try to preserve and share and get other people to appreciate them and embrace them and revisit them. Because a lot of these cult musicals get lost. But then my
No,
co-host here are shadowcasters. They shadowcast, Rocky Horror, Shock Treatment, and
nice.
and a plethora of others. But Randy and then Hades and Mary Puffins, could you tell Rob the first time you saw Suck and your reactions to it?
Oh, wow. I saw it a long time ago. It had to have been at least 10 years ago. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was like scrolling through Showtime and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, suck. I'm like, what is this about? So I'm like, is this like softcore porn or something? I'm like, what is this about? So I
Mm-hmm.
clicked the link and then I saw like some of the people that were starting it and I watched it and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I'm like, it was so much fun. And seeing that like Iggy Pop, Henry Rollins, and freaking Alice Cooper in it, I'm like, this is exciting. I loved it. I've been hooked ever since. It was such a great film.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was all those people. I felt the same way. You know, my mother was just concerned about the title. You know, a lot of people thought. And then like even like it's like I just thought, well, who's gonna be the critic when it first comes out? Just goes like does, you know? I mean, it's like I'm daring you, right, to do that. So I thought, well, that'll come too. But no, with the cast, it felt like that for me making it. You know, I'll tell you something. When you make a movie, like you meet these people. It takes forever to do anything. Nothing happens forever. And then sometimes someone will option it, and then years will go by, and nothing happens. You get a measly amount of money, not enough to live on, you know. And then you got to write a whole other thing in the meantime. But then when they actually are going to do the movie, well, then it's a small window of time. So you could have Iggy Pop in your movie, or you could have Corey Feldman. You don't know. You know, both would probably end up on this website, but I'm just saying you don't really know. And so like what happened with that with our movie is was Iggy actually was like as soon as we got Iggy on board, which was literally me and one of the producers went to go see the Reformed Stooges at
Nice.
Massey Hall with the two brothers. So that was amazing, and it was like the best show ever. And so we just wrote a letter like that was the best rock and roll show ever, and you know, and we're making this movie, and we'd like to offer you this part. And then and then didn't and then didn't think anything of it. And he was in Russia or something, and he read it, and then he read the script, and then when he said yes, and that was it. Then when we said to Henry Rollins, "Oh, we're doing this movie," you know, and we said Iggy's in it, he was like, "I'm in," you know. And then
Oh,
like as
that's
soon
great.
like that credibility just sort of his credibility just led to all these other people. And then by the time and then my producer knew Malcolm McDowell, and so she was like, and then she was like, "Yeah, well, I worked with Malcolm," and I was like, "Well, yeah, we would love Malcolm McDowell for this." And
That was amazing.
you think you could call him? That would be really convenient if you would do that. So then, by the time that was all done, then Alice Cooper was like, he's like, I know everyone in this movie. You know, these are all friends of mine, and it was like great. There was no part for Alice Cooper at that part because I had offered him like just any part. So I was like, okay, well, perfect. I was like writing this part and then and sending it off. It was like because we didn't think we'd get these yeses, and the same thing happened with the music too. Like when we got the music, it was sort of like we got we have to get the rights to the music, and the record labels own the music and stuff like that. So we're like trying to get like the Rolling Stones and David Bowie and stuff, but we got Lou Reed first, and then so that we said, okay, we don't have any money, but Lou Reed gave us Oh Sweet Nothing for this much money, and everyone was like, okay, we'll do it. If Lou Reed did it, we'll do it. And then at the end, like Lou was like, Lou's manager was like, "No, Lou has to see the movie," and we're like, "What?" It's like, we're mixing it tomorrow. We
Oh,
told the Rolling
no.
Stones, it's like, what do you mean he's got to see it? It's like, no, he's got to see it. And then he did. He watched it, and like we were literally mixing on Tuesday, I think, and on Monday, like that would have been all of our music would have been gone. All of our music would have fallen through, and then we got a 2-word email, like it said Lou approves. It's like I'm gonna get T-shirts made with Lou approves.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
my girlfriends over there, I wanted to ask them the first time they saw it and their reactions to it.
Mhm.
Y'all ready?
Yeah. I think we saw it the first time about a month ago when you mentioned it, because I had missed this one in my travels. It started out, all I can say is I want Alice Cooper to be my spirit guide. I
Yeah.
was kind of made me jealous for that. And then it had a very music video feel to it that I really, really liked.
Mhm.
And it was very aesthetically riveting. Just the choices of lighting and like the glow effects. I don't know. It really got me. The makeup, I loved it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that absolutely every single song slapped. All of them were great. All the songs,
Absolutely.
they were
Mhm.
bangers. Like, I love that. That was my first reaction. And like a month ago or something when we first learned about this. And I've watched it at least 3 or 4 times because I'm like,
Oh,
this is
wow.
great. Oh, I love this one. This one was so good. I loved
Nice.
how like campy and like how serious it got at times. Like I loved everything about it. It was fantastic. And like the style
Gotcha.
choices, like the crazy like filters, it totally looked like a music video, but like as a movie. Like it had like
Yeah.
such a good
Mhm.
vibe. I loved it.
How Queenie's face was really like really
Mhm.
unsettling, but in a way that you couldn't look away. Was there
Mhm.
something going on with the cheekbones, like some kind of special effect?
Oh, the space age.
No,
Yeah.
that's just Dimitri's face.
Oh my
That's
God.
just his face. And then he came in, like I remember, like
Yeah.
I love Dimitri and I love his band, the Burning Brides at the time. He's now in a band called Off, which is also a fantastic band, a sort of a super group of people. But his band at the time was called the Burning Brides, and yeah, I just loved that band. And then I heard a song. I think it was a different song originally, and I was like, it sounded like a vampire. And I had the part, and then they said, "Well, what is this part?" And I said, "Well, you sort of symbolize like, you're the drugs that killed Jimi Hendrix. That's what you are.
Wow.
That's what you symbolize." And then he just came in, he had that smile on his face, and then I was like, I wasn't even sure about it at first. I was like, but that's rock and roll, and Dimitri is rock and roll, and so he just came in and he did it, and I was like, because that wasn't what I was picturing at all. But then that he held it, and it was like great, great. Then we did the scene where he sings the song. And to
Flesh and
me,
bone.
that's my favorite part of the movie because Dimitri just like that performance, singing right down the camera, and that's the most musical. Like it's a musical, but that was the most musical moment, right? And holy shit! Like when I watched it, it was just like that's it. Like I just used that shot for the whole time. Like
Oh
he's just
yeah, it
doing
was
that was I became a real fan of that, myself as I was sitting there watching him do it.
It's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
But you can't look away
Yeah.
though. Which is
mesmerizing.
apropos. Yeah.
So you were
Yeah.
on the pulse of something because this came out in 2009. And so what I wanted to tell you is that you were on the pulse of something that was popular and mainstream, of course, with Twilight and Vampire
Yeah.
Diaries. But not only were you, I think, capitalizing on it, but you were making fun of it, which was the most
Yeah.
genius thing. Because it's like
Yeah.
you're making a vampire movie, but you're making a movie that's actually critiquing and criticizing the romantic sort of watered down vampires, because these vampires are not watered down or romantic at all.
Well, what I was making was a rock and roll movie. You
Yeah.
know, I was making a movie, and not just a rock and roll movie, but an indie movie. I'm from that slacker generation that, and the MTV generation as well. But the slacker generation that just didn't, we'll worry about the plot later, and and sort of to our fault. But I wanted to write an indie movie, rock movie. So it's about my friends and my people, and a lot of inside jokes, for no reason. But that's what I was interested in doing, and I wanted to do music because I did do music, and I played in bands that went nowhere, just like the movie. And so it's like I wanted that to be a part of it. And then the vampire thing was just the metaphor, because like no one wants to see okay, I'm going to make a movie about a band that's going nowhere that does drugs. It's
Yeah.
it's like okay, well, no one's going to make that movie. So no, wait, they're really unsuccessful though. It's like okay, but then the whole, well, what if the drugs are the vampire? And what if dead rock stars sell more records? And it's that sort of metaphor, and that's sort of where I just sort of came at it from that sort of angle. So the vampire thing was secondary. Now, that being said, I love vampire movies and I love horror movies, and so I think you can see some of those references of other vampire movies in this. But that was the sort of thing, and no one wanted to make it. So like no one, and a few years went by. Then that Twilight stuff took off, and I guess at that point it became a little more someone wanted to do it.
And
Which was
I always wondered, and then I had to do a deep dive. You wrote, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wrote or co-wrote all the music in the movie?
yeah. Me and
Nice.
well, all the music, not the soundtrack, but I wrote all the winners music. Yeah,
Yeah.
me. There's
Nice.
another guy on the music side called John Castor, who was my friend, and we'd made records together, his records and other records, and we did that record together, and then we sort of like I would have this song, or he would have these chords, and sort of did that kind of, and then we just sort of, though the actual record came together really fast. Like I don't know what song I had. I had one of them, and then I don't know. And then we went into the studio in LA, and then we went to studio in Montreal, and it was just like bam. It's like, okay, well, we got to write the record now. And so it was just like he
The
started playing the
music's
chords,
so good, though. The music is
we did
so
really
good.
fast. Oh, cheers! Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great.
You
I always quote that one song, "I almost killed you last night."
yeah.
That's my favorite. So close
That
to
was a
hurts
great
is my
line.
favorite.
That song existed before the movie. That song was
Oh.
just like a funny thing about a friend who was dating a very unbalanced person, and that was a joke that he would wake up and she'd be right there.
Oh my
It was just a joke, though. No one actually killed anybody, and but I thought that was funny, so I sort of came up with that piano bit, and when I wrote it, I think I wrote it even like, I don't even know if I wrote for one of John's records, but I don't know. But then when Suck came out, I maybe
But
changed it a little bit.
all the music is great. I mean, all of
Mhm.
it's great. Suck, So Close It Hurts, the song that the movie opens with. But all of y'all have such a rock band sort of feel, and I just love the music so much. We're musical fans, so
Nice.
the first thing the plot's great, the vampires are great, but the music's what makes it so incredible. Do y'all have anything to
Nice.
say about the music?
Oh, I loved it. There's really nothing else I could say, is that it's just so good. Like every song, like everything about it, it's just wonderful. It's very
Nice.
entertaining. It has a good beat. Like it's just great.
Nice.
And
I should also say I didn't write Dimitri's music.
Right.
That was Burning Bride's songs from Burning Bride's records. But like I said, they sound like a vampire.
did you were you guys actually performing like in it? Like were you guys actually singing, or did you have someone else step in and do the music for you, or was that you guys actually
Yeah.
performing during the film?
Well, I sang my parts and played my instruments. Our the the other girl, Jessica Perret, who played
Mm.
Jennifer, we used she dubbed in a voice. We'd done the record before we cast the
Mm.
actors,
Mm.
you know. So we recorded it. Like basically, I got a little development money, and so I went and made the record, you know.
Nice.
And then we hired everyone else afterwards. So it wasn't, you know, yeah, except for Danielle, that's Barbara Momobolo. That's my wife, the girl
Mm.
with the
Oh,
afro.
Mhm.
She we wrote that song for the movie,
Nice.
and so and yeah, so she
Mhm.
sang her part obviously, and because we were together before the movie.
Oh, we were gonna
Yeah.
Aw,
ask
I
that
love
because
it.
we were gonna ask that. We were
Mhm.
discussing that. We were wondering if that's how you guys met.
No, we met before that. We met before the
Aw.
movie.
It's so sweet. But what I was gonna say is a lot of like rock operas started as concept albums first, and then the plot, and then everything else came after. So it's really kind of kick-ass that, you know, it started as an album, and then the plot, and then the actors came later, which I think is really rock and
Although
roll.
it's not entirely true because I had the script, and then so that was the sort of the framework, and then it was just sort of like literally that simple. Like John would play this riff, ding, 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 and I would just start writing the words to Going No. I think Going Nowhere was written like sort of as we like it was like one sort of take because I knew that the I thought that would be the first song. So I thought,
Mhm.
oh, this is a band about that's going nowhere, you know. Don't know how to begin. The open road is closing in. We're getting far from where we've been and where we're going. Hey, where we're going? Where are we going anywhere? We're going nowhere, right? So that's like the first sort of like little thing. But that was just like it was just that was it. So I had the script. So but that made the songs come really fast. But yeah, then we had the record, and then we had to then we then the movie started, and then the casting began. You know, had I known I had Iggy Pop and Alice Cooper, you don't think I would have written songs for those guys? You know, just be
Yeah.
singing. It's like, oh, here, I wrote something for you, Iggy. You know, if you want to take a
And they
stab at
had
this,
us.
I certainly would have done that. But I didn't think that. I did think one thing was that it was hard on an indie movie to get like big talent, and we had enough money that you had to have big talent to get the money. That was part of our deal, right? If you don't get anyone, then you don't get the money. So, but it was smart. It was easier to get the rock stars to play smaller parts than it was to like get the rock stars to come play your festival. You know what I mean? Because they're just coming in and they want to do it, you know, and it involves less of them. So it was just a funny idea, just like, well, what if we use musicians in not in the because originally I thought, oh, everyone has to be a real musician. It has to be a real band. It has to do this. Has to be, you know. It's like, but then again, I was like, well, what if we had musicians play the actors and then use actors as the musicians? So,
Well, as you as a rock
I mean,
fan,
we had to they had to have a bit like the drummer had to be able to play the drums, or you wouldn't it wouldn't work, you know, like certain instruments, you know. You had to do. And I did get the band, and I did have them come, and I booked a rehearsal space, and I had them rehearse. I had them learn the songs, you know, because I wanted them to feel like, you know, they're not musicians. I wanted them to feel like, well, what's that like? You know, what's it like to go to a jam space? What's it like to bring your guitar? What's it like to pack it up? What's it like to try heroin? Just kidding. They didn't try it. I just a joke. It's just a little joke. But
so as you as a rock like a singer and as a writer, how did it feel? I know you've already said it, but how did it feel to be doing a movie and having Alice Cooper and Iggy Pop and Henry Rollins and Moby? How did it feel for
yeah,
you?
it was just amazing. Like it was amazing. It's like your heroes are coming out and supporting you, which is and then they're all so great. Like you'll find
Oh,
the bigger people get, the nicer they are. You know what I mean? There's nothing to
oh,
prove. I mean, I found that you would think the opposite. You know, oh, here comes a big rock star. Whereas no, Dimitri was the troublemaker. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke again. It's a joke again, and he is a rock star. So I'm just joking. But but these you have these legends, and they were so generous and so easy
And how do
easy
they
to work with.
did they ever
Yeah.
compliment the music that you all were doing in the film? Did they ever say anything about the music that was in the
Oh
film?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I remember one time, like, yeah, like, uh, Iggy like listened to something and said just a little throwaway comment about, oh, this is a smart song. This is good. I forget, but it was like, yeah, it was a life changing kind of like moment. It's like, oh my god, this is crazy. Like,
So when you did it,
I'm getting a compliment from Iggy Pop, But then you also have to keep yourself in check too. Like, don't
so
get
you all
carried
did
away.
this in
That might
Canada.
just be a polite. That might just be a polite thing to say. You know what I mean? You don't want to get carried away. Start talking down to your friends. Yeah, whatever.
So you all are Canadian, and there's
Yeah.
and this is filmed in Canada, but there are some American actors, and so
Yeah.
and there's sort of like a mesh of like I was rewatching it tonight. There's like a weird juxtaposition between like how the Canadians are, and then when they go to America, sort of the dichotomy between how they're treated in Buffalo. And I wanted to know, like, did you see like a difference between like the Canadian music scene and then like the
Yeah,
American?
some asshole broke into our van in Buffalo, and there you go.
Oh
It's
my
true.
God.
And then the whole way
That's
home
my
in the
home turf,
winter,
and completely correct.
in the winter, you got like a little garbage bag stapled to the thing.
Oh my God.
That's the difference. No, I'm just kidding. That did happen, but I only played in Buffalo once, and it was actually a great time, and it was fun, and the people that we played with there were great. There was none of that. Yeah, I make fun of. I mean, part of being Canadian, I don't like it when people make a Canadian movie and pretend America doesn't exist. It's like they want to say, okay, well, we're Canadian now, we're taking place, but like there's this giant America right there, and we watch American TV, we watch American culture, we listen to American music. America is a huge part of our life. We're not American, let me say, but it's a huge part of our life. So it's ridiculous to not acknowledge it. And yeah, more. I was taking the piss out of the border a little bit because
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
had some issues with myself just going across there, but I don't want it
Well, I
anymore.
mean,
So I want to say I'm way over that now. And
a thumbs up. But I mean, even though
yeah.
we're American, of course, even though we're
Yeah.
American, we grew up with Canadian things. So, like, I noticed a few of the actors in the film. I noticed you, of course, because
Mhm.
I was first introduced to you, Rob, through
Mm.
Superstar with Molly Shannon
Oh
and
right.
Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Sure.
I loved your character.
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
I
That was a
loved
really fun
Superstar.
movie. That was a real fun time.
Mhm.
You only in it a little bit, but you're actually there for like a long time and
Mhm.
working with those people, and they were so funny as you know.
And of course, with Mike, Randy and I recognized Mike from Degrassi because we
Mhm.
grew up with
Right? Sure.
Degrassi.
Yep.
And then Danny Smith from Big Wolf on Campus, which was a show that I loved.
Danny's a funny one. Like I was living in Los Angeles, and I was living with this girl, and she moved out for like I wasn't living with her, but like we were just roommates, you know. And she went somewhere, and then Danny just showed up in her room, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" You know what I mean? Anyways, we ended up getting along great. So then I was like, "Okay, I need a little weasel, Danny. He'd be perfect," and he was great. But
When this
yeah,
movie came out, how did you play it like via film circuits? Did you play it? How were you able to promote it and to release
uh,
it?
it it came out at TIFF. It debuted at Toronto International Film Festival, and we sold our distribution for Canada. We sold theatrical distribution in Canada at that festival, and and then I don't know when we did alternative kind of release in America where it was sort of like they ended up not doing theatrical in Canada, but they bought the rights to do it, so we couldn't even like put it in the theater or anything. It's a weird thing, you sell your movie, you can only take it to that stage, right? And then it's sort of whatever, someone buys it, and then it's out of your hands. They'll change the title, they'll do whatever. But we sold some theaters. We were in theaters in like Tokyo. It was a good
Oh,
little
wow.
cult movie. It was what you want for a cult movie, you know what I mean? And it premiered in the States at the Man's Chinese Theater. Like I got to go down to the Man's Chinese Theater
Nice.
and like do a suck screening there. So that's pretty like awesome. And we did these like sort of, it was like a digital release, but that was when that was sort of new too, like to just sort of go on digital screens because you before that it was all film prints. It was prints and advertising, so it's a lot of upfront cost, right, to do the prints. And so this was like sort of like, oh, we'll put you on 100 screens in the U.S., you know, which is again, it's great for like what this movie is, and then people find it like you guys just saw it like last week or whatever, and then you know, it's like we don't sell like a lot of records, but we sell every quarter for like over a decade. You know, it's like so it's, people discover it, and that's the kind of movie that I like, and that's the kind of movie I was trying to make. So
Yeah, I
I'm
discovered it about 2011, and then it sort of left my consciousness and then came back, and I never ever forgot about it. And so I always try to tell people to watch it. When did you start to notice? When did you start to notice that people had seen it and it became this like small little underground cult thing?
sort of when it first sort of came out, you get people finding you. Like I'm not a social media person. I don't have a presence there. I don't look for followers or anything like that. I put like a picture of my kid up and stuff like that. You know, that's what I use it for. But you notice when like a couple of hardcore fans come along because they find you. It's like I don't know how they find you, but they find you, you know. And then it's like, okay, I got two werewolves and a vampire here, and they are, you know, they're promoting me every day. But you know what? Then you say you kind of like these people, you know, because you don't know them at all, but then you start seeing them and they're promoting you and they love the movie, and like you know that's the way I love things, you know what I mean? So that's the way I love the Velvet Underground like that, you know. And if one kid in one place, you know, likes you in that way and is then you're a part of that world. And that's how I felt the first time I put that record on. It was like I want to be a part of this world, this world of images and this, you know, these people. Like I want to be a part of that. And so yeah, you know, that's and I don't know if you know, but a lot about the Velvet Underground, but they weren't a big hit at first, you know. It's like that's the kind of music I like, the music that wasn't always in the mainstream or always immediately accepted by everyone. You
Oh
know?
yeah, our favorite musicals are these cult underground musicals, and we share the hell out of them. I mean,
Yeah.
and we are like the FBI. We snoop people out and just and email them like, "Hi, would you like to talk about suck, or would you like to talk
Yeah.
about the apple?"
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just because
Right.
like
Raising
I just
James.
try to huh?
Raising James.
You want to talk about
Yeah.
I don't. But then I noticed on some posters, some territories called it Vampires Rock.
Did they? I don't, maybe that was just a tagline. I don't know, but they will do that. Like some things they change it because the language doesn't translate or whatever. So the European model will change it to something else. They'll say, well, you can't call a movie. I mean, I remember my first screenplay was a movie, and it was called Chicken Blood, and they're like the Germans won't get that. I don't know like what it was, so we ended up changing it to like the size of watermelons, which was a line that one of the characters said. But it was like that was right when I first started writing, and then so I sort of learned that they'll change the title, they'll change this, they'll change the poster. Like the poster in Canada, like the poster you guys see behind you, that's the American poster, which is all the
Oh.
people from the movie. But in the Canadian poster, there's a girl on it that's not even in the movie. You know?
Yeah, with her back's turned, right? Her back's
No,
turned.
that's from
Sucks
the
tat.
record. That's from the record. We
Oh,
did that for the
wow.
record. The suck tattoo, and that ended up being a poster for some markets. But no, in the Canadian one, it's just some model that some photographer hired and put on that shit. It's like, oh, you know, I mean, I don't want to shit on the people that bought my movie, but it's like why wouldn't you put the lead girl? And like I think she got like Mad Men 5 seconds after that movie came out. It's
Oh,
like, oh
wow.
well, thank God we have this person that we don't know on the cover. It's like, anyways, but I don't know.
In your
I guess
creative mind, did you, I
yeah.
don't know, like in your creative mind, did you ever think about where these characters, because the ending's very vague. I know that they do, I guess, regress and they become vampires and they get freed from it all. Do you
Mhm.
see like what do you see the winners, which is the band in the movie, what do you see the winners doing after that sort of adventure?
Mhm. Yeah, I sort of see them falling back into the dark side. I mean, that's sort of what I was saying at the end there with the vampire sort of coming back. You know, it's kind of funny. You know, if I could have changed anything, what I would have changed is like Jennifer, sort of the fun character. She's the one that becomes the vampire or whatever. I should have switched it. Like when my character became the Joey character becomes a vampire, I should have made him have the fun and then her try and save the day. Her get the vampire hunter. Like I thought that would have made more sense because otherwise my guy just whines from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. But you know, and then it's like, well, who cares what happens? But the idea as written was that they go through all this trouble and they kill the queen vampire, and that's just his street name. Like he wasn't actually a queen vampire, and there's no such thing. And that then that they're still that this guy is going to take them back. And I guess what I was trying to say is like a lot of people like will get into is like a rock and roll lifestyle and then straighten out and have the straight life, and then it can always come back and get you. You know.
I love the scene with Alice Cooper, just like we were at Hades and Mary were talking about just a scene of just like when like Rob, I guess, has his not Rob, Joey has his Rob
Mm-hmm.
and Joey, I guess, have
Mm-hmm.
that moment where they just go to that abandoned field or whatever, and then Alice Cooper just appears in that like station wagon. Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
beautifully shot with the filters and everything. I mean, and you
Mm-hmm.
directed this as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Alice Cooper was sort of the sort of desaturated stuff, and we had a lot of fun. Sort of rock and roll is kind of a subversive thing first for me, you know. So I like the idea of like making the sky like when they cross the border, I make the sky red, white, and blue, like because like you can. It doesn't matter, like it's a rock and roll world. So yeah, it's desaturated. And then I take the red coat and I pump that red because it's sort of a devil thing, and it's not because I'm into devil stuff, but it's that sort of crossroads thing is a rock and roll reference to Robert Johnson, sort of the origin of the blues, that the that he went to the crossroads and made a deal with the devil, and then he could play um, he could play the blues, and it's a sort of a rock and roll lore. There's a lot of rock and roll lore and a lot of rock and roll references sort of hidden in there, like a lot of album covers and things like that. You know, they cross the street and it's like the Abbey Road shot, and then
Yeah.
Jennifer starts to glow and it's T
Mhm.
Rex, and they're at the border and it's Born in the USA, and they go to the washroom and it's the Rolling Stones, and then the Who, I guess, when they're in Buffalo. So it's just different
Have you
rock and roll
ever
references.
Have you ever wanted to or been approached to or sort of had in the back of your mind? Because, you know, with cult musicals, screening is a big thing. Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever thought about shopping it to small little art house theaters to do screenings or whatever?
Well, here I can't because I sold the theatrical rights here in Canada. In the
Oh,
States, we can do that. I mean, someone just called us. I think we're going to screen it in some festival. Like, we did a bunch of festivals, but we're going to do it
Nice.
in some festival in the southwestern United States somewhere uh, this year. Someone else asked me. I wasn't doing stuff either because of COVID and all that stuff that was going on, and it just wasn't. And I have a child. My kid's 3 years old, so we're
Oh.
chasing all
oh.
around the world. But now it's it's a little older and you can travel a little easier now. So I think we'll go do a couple of festivals and play some music and have some fun. Be good.
I know when we share like reels for Suck, people think it's brand new because it looks brand new and they've never heard about it and they're so excited to see it because I mean one of the trailers, I mean the opening is the alleyway with the bats. And people are so
Yeah.
excited because a lot of the dark subversive like a lot of those stuff are gone. I mean, now, art has changed to where a lot of that experimental dark stuff is no longer explored in musicals. I mean, no longer explored in film. And so people have a hankering and people have a need and a want for something that's original. And Suck is, I mean, it's a rock and roll vampire musical and people lose their shit over it. People lose their shit over it when we post it. So I think
Nice.
there is an audience for it.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of depend on that feeling too. This kind of movie depends on you feeling like, oh, I've never heard of it, and discovering it. Like if you come in and say, hey, watch this movie, it's the best movie, like then that's not the kind of movie this is. This is the kind of movie that, you've never heard of it, and then you find it and you're the only person that knows about it. And then those are our people. You know what I mean? and
Speaking,
I think that is why people like it though. Because I know that there are people, and I'm sending them little inside jokes and stuff too. For that, if you like vampire movies, then you're gonna get that the roadie is Renfield. You know what I mean? There's there's things in there, and if you like rock and roll, then you're gonna get like I said, those album covers or Robert Johnson references. And then there's also I like to put more references that are literally just for like 6 of my friends, but at least they laugh.
could you ever see this being like a stage musical? Could any of y'all ever see this? I could see something like this being like a stage musical.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do
I'll audition.
it.
We were talking about, with shadowcasters, they shadowcast cult musicals like Rocky Horror Shock Treatment. It would be really cool if there was like a shadowcast of Suck with the people, of course, the shadowcasters acting out the film in front of the screen. I mean,
Someone did
Hades
call
over
me
there.
about that once, and they
Oh,
they did that.
wow.
They do that sort of thing, and it was earlier
really
on
cool.
in the thing, but it was in Vancouver. I couldn't give them the rights to it. It's like
But
if you were
That
American, I would have.
sucks.
I would have said sure. I mean, it's not really up to me. I'd call the producer and ask him to give it to them. But I mean,
Well,
I'm not in
Hades
charge of
over there
anything.
could be playing
Oh.
Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
I would love to shadowcast this film. This would be so much fun to
Absolutely.
shadowcast. Like watching it, I was actually thinking, I'm like, wow, this would be awesome to shadowcast with my cast because it would just be so much fun and the music's so great and it's so catchy. Like the audience would eat it up. Like they would love it.
Everyone
And
would be queen,
it's
though. That would be the role.
I would want to be Alice Cooper
Like,
because
yeah.
no one wants to be Joey. See, it's that whining from the
I
beginning to
would.
the end. I
I
told you.
would be
Okay,
Joey.
good. Well, you got
We'll
the
have to
hair.
bring James out here to play
yeah.
Joey.
You can camp if you can camp Brad from Rocky Horror. You can camp Joey. It's
yeah, you
fine.
can camp
I
Joey.
would.
But the whining is
said-
too much for me. Alice Cooper is like, I know my shit.
Yeah.
I've played the strings. No, you're my puppets. Mwahaha. I love it.
There's an obvious answer to this. I know what you'll say, Rob, but we always like gift the names to like the niche people that follow the cult musicals, like the cults of like for shock treatment, we call them the shockies. For the Grease 2, we call them the cool writers. When Suck becomes this
On the
big
core,
cult thing,
that's what the other one was. It was Grease 2. Also written by a Canadian, I think. At least the script was, maybe not the music, but that was written by what's his name? He did the newsroom in Canada. God, what's his name? It's just gone out of my head. But that's a Canadian wrote that Grease 2.
we'll have to Google. But no, what would you call? I mean, I know what you'll say, but what would you call the cult that would follow Suck? If you had to name this, the little cult.
It seems like it would be Suckers, right? We can't really think of anything else that it could possibly be. I'd love to come up with a better name, but then it feels like it'd be cheating because
I would think that you were going to say the Winners because your band's called the Winners.
I'll tell you what the Winners. I'll tell you what the Winners was. My friend, we were playing this thing. There was a club that me and a bunch of musicians used to hang out at, and a couple of these musicians were whatever. They were my friends, and a couple of them were well known in our little local scene, and we were doing. It was the Ramones, and we were playing Ramones songs, and someone came back and to the room where we were going to go play a bunch of Ramones songs, and they said, well, "What do you guys want to be called?" And John, my co-writing song player, says, "We'll be called the Winners," which he meant as a joke, and we all laughed. And then that's why they're the winners. That's the only reason. It's like we're the winners because we, you know. Anyways, it was just like that's where
Hugos.
Huh?
I call it the Hugos.
the Hugos.
The Hugos?
Hugos.
Yeah,
Hugo's a real
I
person.
went clean for that joke. So
Yeah, Hugo's a real person. His feedback on the movie was, Hugo would never pee his pants. That's bullshit. That was his input into the I've just immortalized you for all time. Bullshit. Would not happen.
So he really is from Montreal then?
Yeah.
I found out his name is Ken Finkelman.
Oh, Ken Finkelman, that's right. See?
Who wrote
There you go.
Airplane 2.
Oh, see? Well, there you go. Yeah. He's I just knew that for whatever reason I knew that he wrote Grease too.
But yeah, definitely. So we always sort of end our questions with this, but this is the last question I have for you. What do you hope the legacy of this movie could be? I mean, foreseeing it in the future and foreseeing it on streaming, etc. It is on a couple of streaming platforms. What
I
would
hope
you
it's
hope?
in church and they teach it in schools. You know, no, I don't know. No, I obviously it's just what exactly it is. You know, it's a cult little movie, and so I hope it stays being a cult movie. I love being a part of the underground. I hope it stays around. I mean, you don't want it to just go and die totally, you know. But yeah, if, like I mean, I wouldn't be so vain to say, oh well, kids should be acting it out, that, you know, shadow casting it. That would be great, but I just wanted to have a life, you know. I always want to be out there and have a life, you know.
It does.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it does right now for sure. So, like I said, and it's great. It's great to hear from people. Like, I'm doing this podcast, and then I'm doing another one next week. You know, I made this movie a long time ago, right? I don't know how many years it's been, but a lot.
That is a testament to your writing, and that's a testament to the movie that it feels so new, and that people like. And I discover something every time I watch it. So my favorite girlfriends and Randy, do you have any further questions or comments for Rob about Suck?
I always ask this question, but I always like to know like the silly stuff that happened during the filming or that ended up staying in that wasn't scripted. Bloopers, if you will.
Okay, I'll tell you things that didn't happen. I'll tell you one time when Malcolm McDowell was fucking with me. I'll tell you that time.
Of course.
He comes in with the flashlight, right? And I said, hold the flashlight like this, like underneath your face, you know, because then it'll illuminate his face, you know, like a horror movie sort of thing. And because he's afraid of the dark, you know. And he says, yes, Rob, why would I do that? And I said, well, because you're afraid of the dark. I said, well, why would I illuminate my own face? I'd want to see what's going on. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, it's Malcolm McDowell, you know. He's like, well, I'll hold the flashlight like this, and I'll flash it right across the lens like this. I was like, oh fuck, that'd be great, because it'll give a nice flare, and I fucking love flares like that. That'll be beautiful. Yeah, do that. He's like, yeah, you know what else like flares, Rob? Stanley. He means Stanley Kubrick, right? From A Clockwork Orange. He's just reminding me the kind of director he's used to working with. But he was just fucking with me. But anyways, that was a funny little moment. And then another thing I remember one more Malcolm story. We're sitting there in the lineup outside the rock club, and we have a bunch of goth kids show up, and they're all mic'd, right? Oh, Malcolm's mic'd, so we can hear what he's saying to them. He's like, and he's talking to someone who's like got a face full of silver, you know, and he's like, So are you just sitting there at home one day and like they're like, we need someone with studs in their face, and you're like, today, yes. Just talking to like everyone in line loves him, but he's just shooting the shit with them the whole time. It was great. And then he
He
goes and he
seems
tells
like
other people stories about when he was hanging out with the Rolling Stones, and then John Lennon came in with this with Revolution and played it and upstaged him at the party. And I never heard any of those stories. They're telling everyone else these amazing stories, but I was trying to run things.
he's
But yeah,
so
no, lots of
funny and
laughs. Super
comedic
funny
in
guy.
this. He's
Mhm.
so comedic in this, but he's played some intimidating characters. So I mean, some really intimidating
Yeah.
characters.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you mean Caligula, but no, I assume no. assume you mean Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange is like one of my favorite movies. I love Stanley
The
Kubrick, so
best.
and
Great movie.
fantastic movie, fantastic role, and he will just always be that. I mean, we 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 did that scene with my wife. We had to do a flashback, and
So
that's
beautiful.
from Lindsay Anderson's If is what that footage is from the young Malcolm side. And so basically, like someone came up, I guess it was like I don't know what it was, like Warner Brothers or something, and they were like, Malcolm, I'm getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'd like you to give it to me because Clockwork Orange was so big, and Malcolm was like, sure, yeah, I'll come in and do that for you, no problem. He's like, well, thanks, if you ever need anything, let me know. He's like, well, I'm doing a Canadian vampire movie, and we need some footage. Like, well, that didn't take long. Anyways, and he got us that footage. Malcolm got us that footage, so we got to use that, and that was
I
really fun.
was wondering how you got the rights to do that. It's such a beautiful scene. It was so well done because you can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a real special moment. It was special because it was my wife, and it was special because we had that old footage, and we put it together, and I really like that song, and yeah, it was a nice it's a nice moment.
Randy, do you have any questions or comments?
I just want to say it's such an honor to get to meet you because I really do love your film, your
Thank
talent with everything, with music, everything about it. Like it's such an honor. I'm getting all tongue tied here. I'm sorry.
No.
Fangirling just a little bit. But no, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to do the podcast with us because getting to meet you it's been wonderful. You're great, and your film work, everything is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And I will
Thanks.
say, we were talking about before you came on, we've been so lucky to interview people from these cult musicals, and you never know how they're going to react. They could be like, oh, I did that 25 years ago. But everybody's been so lovely because I think once you make a musical, any sort of cult film, I think maybe I can't get into your old psyche, but I mean, people love what you all do, and people really just embrace these cult musicals. And it might take 10 to 15 to 20 years for people to really appreciate them. But once they do have an audience that appreciates it, they really love it and embrace it and want others to know about it. I mean, obviously, we're all here and we just love it,
Yeah.
and we love your music.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's again a great thing about having like Alice Cooper in your movie, is that like someone will look at it at a video store or online and say, well, what is this? And that brings them to, and then it brings back that summer alive again, So it's fun, like the
Did
summer
you
that
ever
we
keep Did you ever keep in contact with Iggy or Alice
I
or
did
Moby or any?
a little bit. I saw Alice. He came to town a couple of times,
Nice.
and talked about doing some stuff together. And I saw Iggy a few times.
Awesome.
Way,
That's
way,
so cool.
way back when, and John, who I wrote the music with, he was booking a couple of festivals, and so he would bring Iggy in and stuff. And I remember Iggy had me like introduce the Stooges at a big concert once, which was fun. I got to go on stage and
That is so cool.
introduce the introduce the band. It was yeah. Again, great people, and like I hung out with them once when they was getting inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Nice.
I hung out with them just before, or just after that, one or the other. But yeah, no, it was great. They're all great people, and
Any new music? Any new music in the air? Any new music you think?
I am working on a music show right now, but I'm not doing the music. I'm someone that I'm a fan of is doing the music. I'm doing everything else, and it's a television show that I'm
Nice.
Oh,
developing. Yeah, and that's all we'll
please
say right
keep.
now. But I think yeah, no, it's we shot some stuff, and I think it's pretty cool. So we'll see
Please keep us updated, and thank you so much for
Mhm.
for
being
sure.
so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to
Bye
meet you,
bye.
Belle.
Nice
All
to
right,
meet
take care.
Bye-bye.
you.
Nice to meet you.